reason why we fight is to draw attention to issues and to fix it.
Resilient, resolute, defiant in the face of impossible odds.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money.
Hundreds of protesters turned out singing Glory to Hong Kong, an anthem of defiance.
I'm Peter McCormack, and this is Defiance, where I'll be investigating those who openly resist and boldly disobey authority.
The story really went on like this. In March of 2016, the 12 of North Korean waitresses working in China all of a sudden defected to North Korea collectively. And it was the first time in North Korean history that the people in one organization collectively defected from North Korea to South Korea. So after that incident, Kim Jong-un ordered that all university children of North Korean diplomats must be back to Pyongyang no later than the end of July of 2016. And my first son was not exception at all. At that time, he was in the London the college, and my son was also ordered to be back. It was only a few months left.
Was it like a trap? They would have the children back, so you
That's
would be
right.
you would be scared to
because
defect.
it was North Korea's policy of taking the hostages of the children of North Korean diplomats. So my son must go back to Pyongyang immediately. That, the instruction actually made me very angry because, as a father, they loved my children. I paid great attention on the education of my children. But when I learned that I could not do anything, to let my son finish his education in London, I thought that the North Korean system actually was not the system which I should continue to be loyal. And at that time, I, tried to think what kind of, the life I spent in the past, what would be the future of my children in the future. And I concluded that the life of myself and my family were nothing but the current, the slaves. So I decided that I should cut off this kind of, slave chain for my children and let my children be a free man like the people in the free world.
If you've spent any time in Silicon Valley, the mindset there is not should you, it's can you. And that will always drive innovation everywhere in science and everywhere else. But I think this entire, the entire Silicon Valley, once it becomes information, once it becomes data, driven everything, is so unethicked. There has never been a first meeting of all the geneticists who got together and kind of made a loose code of conduct because they knew it was going to freak everybody out. And you needed to have some parameters that you're operating inside or your entire science was going to be thought of as weird, kooky shit. That's never happened with Silicon Valley. There is no ethical code. There are no morals that they operate by. And on data, sort of data harvesting, data targeting, data profiling, surveillance state, everything on up to China's social credit system, there has been very little accountability for the dystopian level of reality that they are building. Mostly because they know no one understands it or what it really means. And by the time we get there, it's kind of too late to undo it. They get around a lot of this by then trying to become useful to police and governments. And, they're very effective at doing that. And in the US right now, there's been not a lot of attention to the fact that in the mass shooting environment that we now inhabit, that there are more people using sort of social media information combing tools to target potential threats. It's not always people that are reported by neighbors or friends or loved ones who are like, hey, Johnny's going to go shoot somebody up. And no one cares because we're so tired of the mass shooters. But predictive policing is incredibly creepy. And we need to pay more attention to all of this stuff.
That's a Minority Report.
Yeah, but it's totally accepted. And in the US, you have Amazon doing some aspects of it, Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's creepy company.
Yep.
There's at least 2 more that have these enormous, and for them it's like, oh, we're going to give you our free thing, get like all of the data that we're using to train our algorithms and blah, 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 blah. But this is a conversation that everybody really needs to be involved in.
The year is 2030. It is now 10 years past. Due to industry demand and massive popularity, the last restrictions in democracies like yours and mine are lifted on Lightning payments. The scalable off-chain instant Bitcoin payment network, first outlined in a 2016 white paper, has come a long way. With legal clarity, it's now possible to send Bitcoin, unlinked to your identity, to an open-source non-custodial Lightning wallet and buy just about anything immediately, all while maximally protecting your privacy. Small daily payments are essentially anonymous again. Catching the bad guys is just as easy or as hard as it was a few decades ago, as merchants must inform the government about Lightning transactions over $2,500, and users must disclose some aspect of their identity for those purchases in order to get the payment to go through. So very large payments like tuition, real estate, cars, loans, goods are still done through maybe base layer Bitcoin or through fiat money and remain traceable. But again, small payments are anonymous, and that helps protect our privacy. Social media companies 10 years from now, of course, ended up following Facebook's lead and launched their own currencies. Some still exist and are used heavily, but none turned out to be as fast or easy to use, and certainly not as globally compatible or permissionless as Lightning. Some of the biggest social media companies end up ditching their own mobile payment currencies for Lightning-based solutions. The borderless nature of Lightning creates a financial revolution in as much as individuals can buy and sell things around the world instantly with extremely few restrictions and without needing to prove their identity. Old obstacles of currency conversion and bank account delays and freezes are left behind. Banking the unbanked becomes an anachronism as the disenfranchised seize this new tool to connect and transact without permission from elites. Lightning is still technically illegal in many countries, including China, but black markets are popular. And in most democracies, Lightning has become the evolutionary successor to paper and metal money, which has become the curiosity of an older age. In this new world, we only give merchants what they need. Merchants only take from us what they want. Advertisers have been forced to change their strategies. Tech visionaries like Jaron Lanier once spoke of a new internet where we could interact with each other in a peer-to-peer way without being exploited and spied on. Lightning has brought us one step closer to that reality. In the late 2010s, there was a lot of talk about decentralized identity, but this doesn't matter as much anymore. Now that you control your micropayments and your interactions with your voice-controlled devices and the ever-increasing Internet of Things, you don't have a single clustered digital identity anymore. Companies don't see you as they once did, as an easy and coherent data narrative to leak to advertisers, but only as obscured pieces of data, difficult to link together. You of course still have a physical address and a phone number, but they aren't meaningfully connected to your day-to-day payments. Few people have goods shipped directly to their homes, as this is a major privacy concern. Rather, they pick them up at community lockboxes, similar to Amazon's lockers today. Wearables and voice assistants and implants have exploded in popularity, but zero-knowledge encryption has made it possible for people to begin to store private data locally on their devices, and individuals share only what they choose to share with the data markets. Of course, most people sell quite a bit to the data markets, but they can conduct that business over Lightning, and they don't have to disclose their full spectrum of personal information like they once did without even thinking. Lightning has revolutionized gaming and social media. Individuals are able to use the network to make streaming micropayments to each other. The best video game players in the world make money in a flow over time, as do the best podcasters and musicians. We consume media and articles on an a la carte basis, paying tiny amounts via our Lightning accounts. Government agencies and corporate HR departments eventually catch on. And they offer an option for you to receive your salary or welfare in small increments every minute rather than one big chunk every 2 weeks, reducing the stress on the average blue-collar worker or unemployed citizen. In-person shopping is even more convenient than it was in the cash era, as payments are made with a quick tap or scan, and the merchants get the funds immediately. Fraud and refunds are still retail problems as they are today, but insurance companies have changed their business model to accommodate the new system. From a human rights perspective, protest has gotten a little bit easier, especially in democracies where it's possible to use Lightning combined with facial recognition deterring masks to buy public transit tickets and SIM cards so that citizens can organize and protest without being easily spied on. The tactics that cash once made possible in places like Hong Kong are still usable even in a more digital world. Crime rates are similar to historic rates from earlier decades when everyday transactions were strictly cash. Despite what governments once said, there isn't all of a sudden more child porn and more human trafficking and more terrorism, as these activities are still illegal and law enforcement remains effective. The idea that you have to give up your rights and privacy for security turns out to be a lie and a myth.
Available now on iTunes, Android, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. This is Defiance.